Hey, what's up guys? So there are a lot of different radar detectors available, and in this video we're going to take a look at the overall radar detector landscape. We're going to go over some of the best and worst options currently available. In fact, we're going to take a look at nearly 30 different detectors to go over the key features and main differences that you need to know about. We're going to start off with our entry-level detectors and then work up to the top of the line options. Now, most of the options are just going to be traditional radar detectors, and then a couple at the very end are also going to have a dash cam built in too. Again, we're going to sort these by price, going from lowest to highest, based on MSRP. That said, for a lot of these detectors, you can find them available for less than MSRP, either depending on where you buy it, or over on my website, I've got an entire page dedicated to the different discounts and coupon codes that you can use to save yourself some additional cash. And I'll link to that page for you right in the video description, right alongside the links to all the different good detectors that we talk about. And so if you want more information, all that will be available down below. And so with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at how the radar detector landscape looks here in late 2023, going into 2024. Now, when it comes to the super inexpensive detectors, they're usually going to be lacking in one of two key areas, if not both. Typically, you're going to have really poor performance and a lot of false alerts. Now, you can get by with some of these detectors in certain situations, like if you're driving in an area with really flat terrain so the radar signal could travel really far, you can get by with a detector that's not very sensitive. However, if you've got things like hills and curves and trees that can block and absorb radar, that's when you're really going to want to step it up to a detector that has a reasonable level of sensitivity. Additionally, there's a lot of sources of false alerts, and the really inexpensive detectors don't have a really good ability to filter these out, and so you're going to be getting a lot of false alerts to the point where, like the boy who cried wolf, you're just not going to trust the detector when it does go off. And so for that reason, I really recommend avoiding some of the super low-end detectors. Now, you'll find detectors like this in the $15 to $30 or $40 price range. Some of these we refer to as the Batman detector because there's a Batman logo on it for some reason. There's also the Uniden DFR1, which lacks some important false alert filtering features. There's even the Cobra RAD 480i. It's a popular seller, but its performance is actually really bad, and it falses a lot. And so there's really nothing under $150 or so that I would recommend. Now, as far as the best inexpensive detectors, I think that would actually go to the Radenso XP and the Uniden DFR7. The XP is dropped in price now, so you can find it online for about $189, and the DFR7 you'll also typically find online for just under $200. Both of these detectors have an alright level of range and some good false alert filtering capabilities. In testing, we find that the DFR7 does have longer range, but the XP has some additional helpful features. And so if you're looking for a detector under $200, the Radenso XP and Uniden DFR7 would be the two to consider. Next up, there's the Cobra RAD 700i, and this one retails for $249. Traditionally, Cobras sell pretty low-end detectors, but this is one of the only two Cobra detectors that I would recommend. It offers good range, it's got good false alert filtering, it's got Bluetooth built in, it's got both manual and automatic GPS lockouts, plus it's got photo radar detection. Then moving up in price to $299 is the Uniden DFR9, which is a detector that I actually would not recommend. It's got the same platform as the DFR7, but it's got an updated display and some additional features. However, it's also the exact same price as the Uniden R3, which is a significantly better detector, and so in my mind, there's really no good reason to pick up a DFR9. That said, its brother, the DFR8, which is the same thing just without GPS built in, that could potentially be a good option for drivers in California. You see, because it's almost exclusively Ka-band out there, you could take a detector like the DFR8 that lacks GPS and some of the important false alert filtering features, just disable Ka-band detection altogether, which will just turn off all the false alerts, and then just have a detector that's just focused on Ka-band. And in California, that could actually be a good detector to pick up that's really good at 34/7, which is what the California Highway Patrol uses, and wind up doing so with a really inexpensive detector. Now, coming back to the Uniden R3, this is kind of your classic choice for a detector that's under $300. It's got a newer platform than what they offer with their DFR series detectors, which gives it much longer range, better false alert filtering, plus photo radar detection. And the R3 is a solid choice, but this new Cobra RAD 700i is definitely giving it a run for its money. Next, at $349, another R3 competitor is the Whistler Titan. This has some nice features to offer, such as automatic GPS lockouts, plus it offers a longer warranty, and it's got these custom user profiles that you can set if you want to quickly switch between different setting profiles on the fly. Realistically though, I find that most people wind up passing over this detector to pick up the Uniden R4 instead. It retails for $379, and in my opinion, it's actually the best radar detector in this price range. You see, it's got really long detection range, effectively beating all of its competitors, and then compared to the R3, it also adds automatic GPS lockouts, improved photo radar detection, as well as Bluetooth. Now, Uniden does not offer a native app for their detectors. However, there are some really good third-party apps available for the different Uniden detectors on both Android and iOS. Next, at $399-ish, there's the Radenso DS1. Officially retails for $469, but you'll usually find it for like $399 or less. It actually shares a similar platform as the R4, though there are a couple differences. It has a different horn under the hood, and it lacks an LNA, a low noise amplifier. And so at the end of the day, while the performance is still very good, it's not quite as good as what we see from the R4. The DS1 does have this trick mounting option though, with a 1/4" 20 screw thread, which opens up a lot of possibilities as far as creative mounting options. It's also powered by USB Type-C, which is very nice for cars that don't have a cigarette lighter built in and only have a USB port. And for a while, this was one of the very few options that you could just plug directly into a USB port for power. But that said, there's now different power cables available that convert USB to the standard RJ11 power port that you see in most radar detectors, and so that advantage is not really that big of a deal nowadays. And so while the DS1 is a good detector and has some nice features, I don't find a lot of compelling reasons to pick it over something like the R4. And a similar story actually happens here with the Escort Max 3. This is Escort's best non-aero detector. It's got auto lockouts and Bluetooth for compatibility with Escort's apps. But again, here with the Max 3, I find it's a little hard for it to compete against something like the R4. Next, at $399, there's the Rocky Mountain Radar Odin. And this is actually an awful radar detector based on low-end hardware. Now, the key selling points here with the Rocky Mountain radar detectors is their scrambling technology, which is supposedly supposed to prevent police radar and laser guns from being able to acquire your speed. However, in practice, it doesn't actually work at all. You see, Rocky Mountain Radar, they're actually some of the biggest scammers in the industry. Now, you can of course check out my tests and videos of different generations of Rocky Mountain Radar products if you like, just like with the other detectors that we talk about here. But in general, I recommend avoiding anything that they sell. And with the Odin in particular, the big new feature here is the fact that it adds Bluetooth. They've got an app available that's nothing special, but either way, yeah. Now, continuing to move up the line here, most of these next detectors are going to add directional arrows to make it much easier for you to locate the source of different threats around you. And while you can certainly get by running a detector without arrows, I find they're very helpful to have in practice. And so starting off here first with the Cobra DualPro 360, at $449, this is going to be the most affordable detector with arrows. Now, the DualPro 360, it's actually based on the Escort Max 360, which was Escort's first radar detector with arrows. Personally, I prefer the multicolored arrows on the Max 360, which I find easier to read. But given the frequent sale prices on the DualPro 360, a lot of people wind up going for that option instead if you're looking for an inexpensive detector with arrows. Next, at $499, is the Uniden R7, which I think is probably the most popular affordable detector with arrows. You see, the R7 is going to have longer range than the Escort and Cobra. It's also got auto lockouts, but it doesn't have Bluetooth built in to give you any sort of app integration. That said, there's a really nice third-party firmware that you can purchase for the detector to help add some additional useful features and cut back on some of the false alerts. And when it comes to these third-party firmwares, it's actually a similar situation to what we have with some other Uniden detectors, like the DFR9 and the R3. Next, at $499, there's the Radenso Pro M, though you can often find this available on Amazon at like $349, which is the same price as the Whistler Titan. And because prices can vary like this from one place to another, the purchase links down in the video description will give you a couple different options as far as good stores to where you can purchase these detectors. And taking a look at those different options will give you a chance to price match and find it for the lowest price. Now, as far as the Radenso Pro M, it's actually a very compact detector, and it had some cool capabilities in its time when it first came out, but it's a little bit long in the tooth nowadays. And personally, I actually think that the Radenso DS1, which is a more affordable option than the Pro M, is a better choice nowadays. Next, we've got the K40 Platinum100. Now, this retails for $549, and believe it or not, it actually shares the same radar detector platform as the Uniden DFR9, which is half the price. You see, both detectors are actually manufactured by the same company. To be fair though, the K40 does offer some additional features. For example, it has the ability to integrate with K40's laser diffusers. However, those are also the worst performing laser jammers available on the market. Now, they also sell a version that includes a wireless remote. I haven't found it to be that necessary in practice, and it adds an extra $120 to the price tag. The Platinum 100, if you compare it to the other detectors based on features, those are around $350 to $400, and they're actually better detectors than this Platinum 100 at $550. If you were to compare it against other detectors in this price range, all those other detectors would be better here too. And so this Platinum 100, just like all of K40's products in general, winds up being an overpriced underperformer. In my opinion, there's not a good reason to pick up a K40, and so this one too is a hard pass. Next, at the same price here, we've got the Escort Max 360 Mark II. Now, this is the updated version of the original Max 360. It's got an updated case, as you can see, but the key difference is the fact that it has an upgraded platform under the hood that's going to give you both longer range and fewer false alerts. This is a detector that regularly gets compared to something like a Uniden R7. Next, we're going to start moving on to some of the most top-of-the-line detectors, including my 3 favorite detectors available, period. The Valentine 1 Gen 2, the Uniden R8, and the Escort Redline 360C. Now, at $599, we've got the V1 Gen 2. Now, Valentine 1s have been around for decades, and they're a very popular option. And this new Gen 2 with an upgraded platform under the hood is a nice improvement over the original. It's got excellent long-range detection, and it's very popular among radar detector enthusiasts, in part at least because of some of the awesome third-party apps that are available, especially apps like JBV1, which is Android only. Now, the V1 does not have photo radar detection, and it also lacks GPS. However, if you pair it to your phone, you can add some of those features back in, such as the GPS-based features, for example. Next, at $699, we've got the Escort Max 360C Mark II. Now, this is the same idea as the Max 360 Mark II, but the 360C has Wi-Fi built in, which is very nice if your car has Wi-Fi built in too. You see, you can use either Bluetooth on your phone or the in-car Wi-Fi to give you things like alerts shared with other drivers in real time, a lot like Waze, though not nearly as many people who use it. Plus, it can go out and reference the speed limit of the road that you're on and display that right on the face of the detector next to your current speed. However, in practice, I find the detector does a much better job of connecting to the cloud via Wi-Fi than when you're reliant on Escort's Bluetooth apps on your phone. Additionally, when it's connected over Wi-Fi, whether you're using your in-car Wi-Fi or you're just maybe parked near your house and connected to your home Wi-Fi, it's going to give you automatic updates for the detector too over the air, both firmware updates to add new features and fix bugs, or to give you the latest red light camera and speed camera database. And I found that a lot of people might actually wind up preferring the Max 360C Mark II over the Redline 360C because it winds up actually being a better bang for the buck. You see, both detectors are going to give you good long-range detection. Obviously, the Redline is going to give you longer range than the Max. And the Redline also has RDD immunity. However, most people don't actually need a stealth and undetectable detector. And so for that reason, a lot of people might wind up preferring saving the $100 and picking up the Max 360C Mark II instead. And it sounds a little weird saying this because yes, it's still an expensive detector, but ultimately I think it's a little better bang for the buck than the Redline is. Next, we're going to move on to my 2 favorite daily drivers, the Uniden R8 and the Escort Redline 360C. First, at $699, let's begin with the Uniden R8. Now, this, in my opinion, is actually one of the best radar detectors available on the market. It's effectively like an upgraded version of the R7 with longer range, better false alert filtering, compatibility with Uniden's laser jammers if they ever finally release the things. Plus, it's got Bluetooth built in like the R4 so you can connect it to your phone and add some additional helpful apps for both Android and iOS. Now, it's worth noting with the Uniden detectors, the firmware updates can be more problematic for a lot of people compared to your Escort and Valentine options. And luckily, there are some good resources available online to help you troubleshoot in case you do run into issues. And ultimately, one of the main things that I like about the R8 is the fact that it offers really nice long-range detection, just like the V1 Gen 2 and the Redline 360C. But unlike those two detectors, it's going to give you very nice responsiveness against both Ka and K-band. And so this makes it a good choice for both constant on and instant on radar. And then rounding out our set here of different radar detectors, we've got the Escort Redline 360C at $799. The Redline, in my opinion, is going to be the best set it and forget it radar detector. It's loaded with bells and whistles, including really nice long-range detection. It does a good job in terms of filtering out false alerts. It's got Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built in. It's got RDD immunity and photo radar detection, etc. Now, even with the latest firmware, it's still kind of sluggish on both K and Ka band, and I'd like to see Escort further improve the response times here with their detectors, including with the Redline. But nevertheless, this is a detector that I wind up picking when I just want to toss something on the windshield and not have to putz around with my countermeasures. It's got good range, good false alert filtering, all the features that I need are built into the detector, and then it can connect to the cloud over Wi-Fi to give me my cloud-based features, speed limit on the display, as well as keeping it self-updated for me too. And so for those reasons, when I just want to get in the car and go, I wind up reaching for the Redline. Now, finally, let's go ahead and cover the different radar detector and dash cam combos. Now, these are more popular, it seems, overseas. There's a variety of different options that actually combine these two. And it can be pretty nice to have one device with one mount and one power cable that gives you both the radar and camera protection for your car. Now, the first two options that I want to take a look at are the Whistler MFU 440 at $249, as well as the Cobra Road Scout at $399. You see, both of these radar detectors have an okay 1080p dashcam built in. Both have Bluetooth built in. The Cobra also adds Wi-Fi, but I don't actually recommend either one. And the reason is the fact that they both actually have pretty bad radar detectors. And while it's understandable in an effort to keep the price point down, if you're looking for something kind of in this price range, I would definitely recommend sticking to a standalone radar detector and a standalone dashcam. Now, if you really do want an integrated option though, the best option available is going to be the Escort MaxCam 360C. The The radar detector is effectively the Max 360C Mark II, so it's a good radar detector. Plus, it adds a 2K dash cam built in as well. Now, it is pricey, of course, at $849. It's actually the most expensive windshield mount radar detector available on the market, obviously in large part because of the fact that it's got that dash cam built in too. However, if you really do want an integrated radar detector and dash cam combo, the MaxCam is really the only good option available. Now, if you've got your heart set on the idea of having a radar detector and dash cam put together, one mount and one power cable, Escort does sell their M2 dash cam. This is effectively a 1080p add-on dash cam that's designed to connect to the mount of different modern Escort windshield mount radar detectors. And then it's got a power pass-through option, so you just plug the power cable into the dash cam plugs into the radar detector, and then boom, you've got your integrated setup here. Now, the video quality I'd rate as below average, and feature-wise, it's a pretty simplistic dash cam. But again, the big appeal here is the fact that you can hook it up to basically any modern Escort windshield mount radar detector, and then add on this dash cam using your existing mount and power cable. As a bonus, if you're using a Uniden detector that's got the big single suction cup mount, you can also connect the M2 to your Uniden detector as well. And if you're not using a suction cup at all, and instead you've got your detector hanging under your rearview mirror using a blend mount, which is a really nice aftermarket mount, well, blend mount has an accessory to allow you to connect the M2 dash cam to your Uniden or Escort radar detector as well. And so with that said, yeah, that was a lot. But that was a run through as far as the radar detector landscape and how everything looks nowadays here at the end of 2023 going into 2024. If there's a detector that piques your interest and you want to pick one up, I'll have a link for you down in the video description of all the good radar detectors that I would recommend. Additionally, if you want to save some additional cash, I've got a page over on my website that goes over the different coupons and discount codes available for these different detectors as well. And then finally, if this list was too overwhelming, totally understandable. The whole point was to go over kind of all the different options available. I'm also going to be doing a video that kind of narrows things down and simplifies it down to just the very best radar detectors available. And then we kind of go into a little bit more detail going over the key differences. And so if you're curious, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell to get notified for when that video goes live. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you're all doing great, and I'll see you in the next video.